This is the live podcast with Manuel, living in full expression.
There are not many people who are buying businesses, and that's a shame. So the education system needs to teach and train people on how to acquire businesses. If you look at the statistics, 9 out of 10 businesses will close up within the first 5 years. Why? Because it's difficult to start a business because you are the accountant, you are the bookkeeper, you are the secretary, you are the director, you are the tax master, you are the one doing the job, you are the this, you are the that. So where you go to work and you have all these people interrelating with each other, you are the one doing everything. So you build it. But once your business is past 10 years, you've got processes in place. And that's hard blood and sweat. And 90% of the time, statistics show that you would fail. So why not buy a business that is crossed that 10 years?
You're welcome to the live podcast with me, your host, Manuel. And today on the show, I have someone who I've known for some time now, and his journey have really, really impressed me and inspired me. And I decided to bring him on the show so that he can share with us his journey. And my guest today is Kayode Emola. And Kayode is a graduate of Applied Geophysics in the Federal University of Technology, Acumen, and he graduated in 2010. He also has BTech in Applied Marine Geoscience in Bangor University in the UK, in Wales. And Mr. Kayode worked with Lloyds Bank, Nationwide Building Society, Deloitte, and several other financial institutions in the UK for over 8 years. He's an investor and an entrepreneur, and he owns and runs a residential care home in Anglesey in Wales. Mr. Kayode, it's good to have you on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me, Manuel.
Yeah, good. So I'm really happy that you showed up for this call today because I've been looking forward to this discussion. You know, I'm having known you for a couple of time and I've seen what you've done for yourself, how you've grown. I'm happy that you're here. So I just read out a little brief about who you are. Can you just go ahead and give us a more detailed background of who Kayode is?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's actually a master's degree in geoscience. So the BTech is in applied geophysics. Yeah, I was born in
Sorry about
Lagos.
that.
I grew up in Lagos most of my life. I schooled in several states, well, in Ondo State and in Lagos State. My university was in Akure, so I did 5 years there studying geophysics. And after that, I came to the UK and did a master's in applied marine geosciences. I've been involved in several other things, both private and in the community and stuffs like that. Yeah, so that's basically a brief bio of myself. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's take a journey back home. Let's understand who Kayode is. What shaped you? Let's start from back home in Nigeria. Can you just give us a brief about your
suppose
stay back
I'm
home?
like every other child. Every child is. The parents wants to get the most of their children. So I believe in this train up a child because I could remember a lot of training I received both of my parents, and not just my parents, from the community. The community shapes you, but it's always important what your parents also feed into you. So my parents have strong sense of work ethics. At the time, my dad was teaching in 2 schools and he had about 5 businesses at the same time. So those were the things that I saw that sort of shaped me to say, if somebody can do this, then you can't limit yourself. My mom was also a teacher. She had 2 stores as well. She had a grocery store and she also had, in those days, I think we followed after the British off and on wine license. So she had that going. So growing up seeing that, it just sort of shaped me into becoming who I want to be. I see the part of my parents who are working in a corporate setting. They were both teachers. And I also saw the part of them who were business minded. So, and I thought it's good to have that background. And my dad would always favor the business side, even though he worked dedicatedly for the government. He was a teacher for 36 years and 4 months. So he served his time. But in all those time, he never allowed the government business to affect his own business. So those are the things that molded me into what I have become today.
Great. I love the way you took us through that journey. So let's look at your stay back home. When you saw your parents doing these businesses, what were the first attempts you made in getting into business yourself?
It's very interesting. My dad was seeming like he was the business guru, but it was actually my mom who taught me the rudiments and fundamentals of business. My first business, I guess I was probably 4 years then, and my mom gave me the investment money, 5 naira, I could remember. So during summer holidays, every of my sibling and myself were very many. My dad had about 20, my mom had 4. So my dad had other children from other women, but we all lived in the same house. So when during the summer, every mom were providing for their children to go and sell. We don't really need it. Not that we needed the money, but I guess it was the training we got from that. So we all went to the market and bought oranges from the wholesalers. So we call it one bag. One bag contain or one basket. Basket contains 50 oranges, and then you buy it. So some of my siblings will buy 2, 3 baskets, and they're able to finish selling it in a day. So, and I noticed I bought one basket for 5 naira, and I sold it for 12 naira. And in my calculation, that was 7 naira profit. And I did that repeatedly for the whole summer. So that was a lot of money. Don't ask me what happened to the money because I didn't see that. But it was that enthusiasm that whatever you do, you can actually make profit that really got me thinking to say, hang on a minute, I think business is going to be something I want to dedicate most of my life for. So those were, I would say, were the building blocks of what I've become today.
That's interesting. At the age of 4, you had this mindset. So having such approach to life and you went to school, what role did your school or did your knowledge in school add to what you already know as a child who already has an idea of business? Can you take us through that journey as well?
Yeah, I think education is very important in everything you do. My dad is a firm believer that the minimum you have to get in life is a bachelor's degree. Yeah, so like I said, education in my household was compulsory. It's not an optional affair. That said, not that everybody in my household did make it to university. I was one of the few ones who made it to university. And at the time I was in university, I think we were about 6 in the university at that time. And it was quite telling on my dad because he had to pay the school fees, pay all the books and other additionals that come with education. But I believe education is part of what shaped me today. Even though I had the business upbringing from age 4, I did several other businesses. I did bicycle rentals. I did video game house. So at the time, we were the only few in my community that had a telephone in our house. So we've got a lot of people who come to our house to make calls and receive calls. And I could remember in Nigeria those days, you couldn't make international call. So I buy international cards, international direct dialing. So I was able to make international calls for people rather than having them wait. So mine is just wherever there is opportunity, I can spot to say, this is an opportunity. This is an area that needs filling, and I just go into it straight away. So I think education is what's really helped to complement the business aspect.
Amazing. So I was just thrilled about the international call you were doing. At what year was this, and how did you get a hang on this opportunity?
That would be about 1997. So I probably was about 14 then. So I probably was about 14. So at that time, I was running the business for my dad. So myself and my brothers, we were handling several other aspects, but the international direct call was purely my own business within the business. So yeah, because my dad just restricted himself to the local and state calls. And I said, well, if a lot of people are asking for this service, it's something I can provide. I'll provide that service for them.
Wow. This thing you said just reminded me of how loads of people are still complaining about not seeing opportunities around them. And at age 14, you are already seeing opportunity, even in your father's business. You saw opportunities. Now, tell us, with this mindset you got at that age, what would you say about people that say the school system does not teach you about money and all that? Instead of going to school, some have this mentality of don't go to school, do business. Some have this mentality of go to school and do business. What's your take in that area?
I think it's complementary. Like one of my teachers always says, no knowledge is lost.
Yeah.
What you know, nobody can take it away from you. But if you look at the both sides, they are both right and wrong. I've got some mentors who will tell you, seek education first in anything you do. And I always tell people as well, when they come to meet me for advice, seek education on what you're doing. I suppose the problem we have in the school system is that the school system actually teaches you a lot of things, not necessarily minding whether you will use them or you will not use them. But if you understand the school system, it is like building on already known information. So that's what the school system is. I could remember when I took my daughter to school at age 2. And at that time, she was able to read 1 to 100 by herself unaided. So we went to the school and said, what is your curriculum? Because we know this girl is very brilliant. And they said, oh, it's student-led. And I said, okay, that's fine. That's good. But can you tell me what is your expectation? And they said, by the time they go to school at age 4, we expect them to be able to read 1 to 7. And I said, well, but this girl is able to read 1 to 100. So she surpassed your education. And so our upbringing, even at 5 now, she could pick up any book and read it for you from cover to cover, unaided, unhelped. So I believe education is the bedrock of everything. The school system, as it is set up today, do not teach a lot of people how to be entrepreneur. And you can't blame them. It's what's in the curriculum. So I think it's for education ministers to draft curriculums that would encourage business. Because I know I did business studies when I was in GSS 1 to 3. That was about 10 to 13 years. I did, and I did trial balance, accounting, completely. And those were the basic accounting that I'm using in my account today. Believe it or not, it's not any sophisticated accounting that I've done. So they've taught me that, not necessarily because I was going to be in business or not be in business, but it's helped. So one way or another, education does help. But I think and I believe that schools should have curriculum dedicated for business, not just having business studies just to study business. Surely, what challenges people face in business and how to really identify opportunities in business and how to really encourage students into business. And anybody who is thinking of going into business, I would say go and get education. It doesn't matter what you do in education. It might be history, it might be government, it might be accounting, it might be banking or whatever. Education is very vital.
Amazing. Your child at the age of 5 that can read cover to cover is really amazing. And that also says something about how we have different kind of children, but they are just put in one class. And you discover that some shooters, some lagging behind, and that could bring a lot of differences in their learning capacity. Now let's move ahead and look at when you decided to leave Nigeria. What prompted you? Because at least you had something doing, you already have eye for business, and you decided to take a leap to leave Nigeria? What prompted you to do that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I never had the plan of traveling abroad whilst I was in Nigeria. It was the least on my diary, but I was working in the oil company. So I worked in the oil company, and I saw a lot of my colleagues who we both worked together, and very many of them come to the UK, do a master's, come back and get a higher position. And majority of them have rose to become senior managers in oil company in Nigeria. So, and I thought, okay, that's a good path for me. So when I worked in the oil company, I was interpreting data logs for many of the data logs that have been produced by Shell in the 70s and in the 80s. They'd been bought by all these small companies. So I was doing all those petrol logs and everything, calculating. I was happy doing that. And I thought within myself, I want to go abroad and get this data myself. So I want to learn how to get this data myself. So the geoscience world is divided into three. So we have the data acquisition, we have the data processing, because once you get the raw data, you have to filter all the noise out of it, which is noise. And then we've got the data interpretation. So because we're not equipped, we've not got all the equipment to acquire the data, I was stuck in the interpretation. So so that was the first motivation that motivated me to travel abroad, to just come do my master's. So I had it in mind that I was going to do my master's and go back home and obviously continue in the oil sector. So I met a lady I was going to marry then, and she was born in the UK. So she said, why would you want to come back to Nigeria? Why on earth? What's your problem that you would want to come back to Nigeria? So she said if she goes to the UK, she's definitely not coming back. She would remain in the UK. So, and I thought, so then I had to give it a serious thought to say, okay, if I go to the UK, then I'm open to staying in the UK. So that was the opportunity that started brewing, and I thought, okay. So I finished in 2010. I did my NYC in Nasarawa from 2010 to 2011. So I saw the opportunity for scholarship to come do my master's in the UK. So, and then randomly I bought the newspaper. I hardly buy newspapers, but I read newspapers a lot. I like to read any newspaper I see. So I opened that newspaper and I saw the name of one of my classmates. He was a year ahead of me in university. And I saw he's won a scholarship to come do his master's in the UK. And I thought to myself, if this guy can win this scholarship, then me too, I can win this scholarship. I'm better than this guy. So that was the motivation. So I applied for the scholarship in 2011 and I didn't get it. I didn't get it not because I wasn't qualified, but immediately I got into the hall, the director was angry because I didn't put on a suit. So I said, okay. So I didn't get the scholarship that year. They changed the director the following year. And I went back the following year in 2012, applied for the scholarship, and I got the scholarship the following year for $30,000. So that helped in paying my school fees and accommodation and my expenses when I moved to the UK. So when I moved to the UK, it was now, obviously, I didn't come with the lady because we broke up shortly before I came to the UK. It was now between, do I want to go back to Nigeria and continue working in my oil company, or do I want to remain in the UK? So it was a hard thought anyway. Anyway, I went back to Nigeria and I got a job in Qatar, which was dream come true. But at that time, it was a lot of countries were just banning Nigerian passports. So they had to apply for visa for me 4 times and they couldn't get it. And the pay was good then. I think equivalent was around £5,000 a month untaxed. So, but 4 times we applied for visa and we could not get a visa. So I just told them, you know what, I might as well just go back to the UK. So then I decided that finally I would just relocate back to the UK. So I just came back 6 months after I left the UK.
Wow, that's a long journey. But do you know what interested me in your story? The fact that the person who pushed you, who motivated you to, to go ahead to come to the UK, at the end of the day, the two of you are no more together. And what lesson would you share on that aspect? What would you say regarding that before we talk about your experience in the UK?
It's actually a sad one, though, because some few things, obviously, I wasn't. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't poor either. But I don't know. Different ladies have different specs for what they're looking for in a man. So she asked some questions to say, can you take care of a child and this and that? Which I thought it was not, because at that time I was training 2 children in school who are not even my children. So I thought they were just a way of trying to instigate a breakup. So, and at that time, she was just saying that the dad has got a plot of land. I have to commit to build a house there before I can marry her. I've got to do this. So she was giving me a whole lot of demand that has nothing to do with relationship. And I said, relationship should be about 2 people wanting to build their lives together, not about 2 people putting demands on each other. So you tell me if you want the relationship or not. And if you don't want it, I can understand, let you go. It's not that I don't love you, but I respect I respect you as a person. She said, yes, she wanted a breakup. I said, is that what you really want? It's not what I want. We were together for 2 years before then, from 2010 to 2012. So I said, it's not what I want, but if it's what you want, I am going to respect it. And she said that's what she wanted. And I said, well, that's fine by me. So that's what caused the breakup. So it was actually a sad one. Shortly after that, I think 2 or 3 months after that was when I left for the UK. So would she have known that I was going to get scholarship, I was going to travel out? I don't know. It's all speculation. So that's why I say it's a sad one.
Yeah. Well, for me, that story tells me something to say that sometimes you need some people in your life that can push you to achieving some certain things. They may not be there along the road, along the line when you're progressing, but they might just be what you needed at that point to be able to take the next step in your life. So for me, that's the biggest lesson I got from that experience from you. I don't know what that taught you, but for me, that's what I picked from there. So
definitely, it's true, because she was in my life, and we were both Christians, and we both decided that we were both going to honor God. And it's not as if maybe we were defiling each other. We were just pure. And for the 2 years we were together. And when she said she was going to break up, I suppose it's things that she must have experienced that I don't have a clue, because she was born in the UK, and unfortunately they had to relocate back to Nigeria. So she wasn't a citizen of the UK, but she was born here. So if she had come here, it would just be that, okay, she's in a natural environment. But because her parents were, so maybe what she's gone through had really affected her upbringing. But yeah, it's true, because if were it not for her, I would not have decided to stay in the UK. Never. But you never know. I might come and decide. Yeah. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. So let's look at when you got to the UK. This is a place you had never wanted to be, and now you found yourself here. Love pushed you, and now you're here.
love pushed
What
me
was
and
it?
love left me.
Love left you. So what was your experience being in the UK doing your masters? Just give us like
When
the
I came to
journey
I
of how
came
it
to
was for
the
you.
UK in 2012, October, when the autumn was really rife, constant rain and cold. It was a mixed feeling, because when I came to the UK, I got a scholarship. My school fees was paid, but the upkeep was not there. So I had to live with friends, and they were supporting me financially. They were cooking for me and everything, because my course was a really tough one. You go on field trips all the time. You go always outdoor taking measurements, which is what I wanted in the first place. So if I'm not on the boat, I'm on the field doing one survey or another. So that was tough academically. It was really tough. It was 6 months of grueling, because I was like, it was distinction or nothing. So I was just focused on the academics, and I didn't even want to work. So for the first 6-8 months, I didn't work. So there was no extra income. And the fact that they gave us dollars then, Now the exchange rate is quite closer. Before it was very wide. Your $30,000 was about maybe 15, 16,000 pounds. So by the time you've paid school fees of about 13,000 pounds, you've only got 3,000 pounds left for a year. So you've got to pay rent, you've got to pay this and this and this and that. So the challenge was there. A lot of my friends were working, but I was just dedicated to just my academics. But then the dynamics of that when I came too was there was a change in government not long before I came, because there was a financial crash in 2008. And in 2010, the Labour were kicked out of office, and we have the Tory government. And it was at the back of immigration. So when I came, there was no post-study visa. There was nothing to, so it's just finish and move away, or you remain as an illegal immigrant. And I said, I'm not going to stay here as an illegal immigrant. So that was why I went back and got a job in Qatar. So I came back, applied, I got a discretionary leave to remain in the UK. So once I've been here, I started applying to companies to get a job. So a lot of companies were willing to take me, but many of them were not ready to go through the process of sponsorship. When I got my papers regularized and everything, I got a company that was willing to take me in the local area. But now it was 2014 and Russia had invaded Ukraine. And America was ready to punish Russia. So they crashed the price of petrol. So petroleum price went from about 120 when exploration was booming to about 30-something pounds. So everybody was now like, we're going to stick with proving fields and just exploit rather than explore. So a lot of companies heard my CV and said, you've got a good CV here. We can see you've got all the experience in Nigeria. But can you wait a little for the oil price to go up? Because the oil price never recovered. So that was when one of my cousin, I went to visit her in Cardiff and said, why are you just all about science, 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 science? You've done science all your life. You've worked in the oil company. And why not try something else? And I said, what can I try? She said, come work in the bank. She was working in the bank then. And I said, what do you mean? She said, there's a lot of money in the bank. Come and work in the bank. I said, oh, okay, I could give it a try. And so she helped me with my CV and everything and gave me contacts. And that was how I ended up working with Lloyds Bank.
Wow, that's an interesting story. So how were you able to manage being a science student? I have also worked in the bank, having an engineering background, having to work in the bank. So for you, how was it for you? With all you know about Newton's law, all you know about Archimedes' principle, all you know about gravitational force, how were you able to use this in the banking system?
Well, I suppose it's life. Everything is transition.
Yeah.
When I applied to the banks, I applied to several banks, and it was the Lloyds Bank that I got. When I got in first, it was very scary. A lot of the people knew I was asking a lot of questions, and everybody would be looking at me. I said, yes, it's a new environment for me. I want to thrive in this environment. So let me ask all the questions that I have. My colleagues were very helpful. They were putting me through the ropes. I was asking the question, and a lot of them helped me. Within a few months, I became a subject matter expert because I've known nearly everything. So everybody is coming to meet me for this. A lot of people were coming to meet me, and I dealt especially with bankruptcy. Was what I focused on to understand why people go into bankruptcy, what happens, and this and that. And so I think those things also really helped me now doing my own business and my own affairs and everything. So working in the bank, it taught me a lot of things because it made me understand the other side of the provider of the funds, what they think, how they think, what happens behind the scene and everything. So I stayed with Lloyds Bank, and after a while, I got an offer from Nationwide that was irresistible.
Wow.
So I left Lloyds Bank and went to Nationwide. And whilst I was going, I could remember my senior manager telling me, why are you leaving us? We don't want you to leave us. We want you to stay with them and come back to Lloyds Bank. I said, okay, I'll put that in mind. So I left them, came back to Lloyds Bank. stayed in Lloyd's Bank for a few months, and then they were going to give me another role that I did not enjoy. So I said, so at that time, what's happened was I was now thinking of getting married to settle down, myself and my wife now. So in 2014, I met my wife in 2015 then. So 2 years after the broken up with my ex, or my ex-self and my ex split. So I met my now wife in 2015. So in 2016, she's a doctor. She was newly qualified in 2013. So in 2016, the NHS told her to give them her 6 years plan. And I said, why would they do that? To give them your 6 years plan. So she said, well, if we're going to get married, we need to consider all these things. And I thought, 6 years plan, because I was in Wales. I moved away from Wales to England now. And I was happy in England to say, yes, I've left Wales behind. But she wanted to live in Wales because she's Welsh. She's part Welsh and part English. So she wanted to be in Wales. And she said they've given her, she has to give them a 6 years plan. So we did all the plan, and the plan ended up in Bangor. And I said, not again. This is the last place I wanted to go. So that was at the back of my mind that, okay, in 6 years' time, I'm coming back to Bangor. But I'm not going to waste these 6 years. I'm going to make the most of it. I did 2 years with Lloyd's Bank from 2015 to 2017, and I left them. So I went to Bournemouth to work with Nationwide. That was in 2017. So 2017 to 2018, we were planning on getting married. So I told my manager in Bournemouth that I'm going back. And she wasn't really pleased. She wasn't happy. She said she wanted me to stay and said, say, we'll do anything for you. We'll buy you a car. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. And I said, it's not about that. I'm getting married. There comes a time in life where I knew that when I start getting settled, I would not be able to go around again. I moved back to Cardiff to Lloyd's. Lloyd's were behaving funny, so I went to work with Deloitte on a pension project. So it was from there I knew the time was now coming for me to move back, because the 6 years was nearly complete, was due to start coming back to Wales. So I went back to Lloyd's to say, can I come back? And I was offered an assistant manager role to either be in Cardiff or to be in Chester. So, and my wife was moving to Wrexham then. So I just told them that, yeah, I'll just move to Chester. So we were splitting it. We lived in Wrexham. Wrexham to Chester was about 15 minutes drive for me. So she could work in Wrexham. And then we knew after our 1 year in Wrexham, it was going to be to come to North Wales. So before then was when I started planning what I was going to do. Because I said, when I come back to Bangor, it's straight into business. So for me, it's just like I've paid my price working in the corporate environment. This is the time for me to now do what I really wanted to do and I've loved doing all my life.
That's a long one. So while you were talking, you mentioned something about bankruptcy and talking about the people that owns the money and what they want the money to be done with for them. Can you do a brief 2 minutes, 3 minutes masterclass on Bankruptcy 101 for somebody listening to you right now? Just a brief, because when it comes to the aspect of money, is one area that a lot of people, either when you miss it, you miss a very vital part of your life. So just do Bankruptcy 101 for us, like a mini masterclass for us right now.
Yeah, before I do the bankruptcy, I just want to, some people, I believe everything is life choices. My dad was very rich, and he called me one day and he said, I've seen money and I've tasted money. So I said, okay. Because at the later life, when he retired, I tried to get him to go on, and he just looks at me, and it felt like I was pushing him and forcing him. And so he made that statement, I've seen money and I've tasted money. But what he left me with was, money is a visitor. When money comes, hold it down with something, otherwise it will go away. And I thought, okay, that's a good one to hear. So in terms of bankruptcy, some people go into voluntary bankruptcy and some people go into voluntary arrangement. All I would say is don't ever take what you can't manage or what you can't thin line. In the UK, some countries are amenable to bankruptcy. In the US, if you've been bankrupt once or twice, you're good for business. Whereas in the UK, if you bankrupt once, that's it. It takes a while for it to clear in your record and all the rest. So what I discover is that some people enter into bankruptcy with one. Some people go into IVA from IVA. That's voluntary, involuntary, individual voluntary arrangement. So it's two parts. So one is IVA and one is full blown bankruptcy. Either one is not good. But what I will not say not good because it will be like I'm giving advice. Everybody's circumstance is different.
Yeah.
What it is if you enter either position, it's just a state of saying, I can no longer manage my financial affairs. I need somebody to manage it. So in the bank, we would advise that you get a charity. We use a step change then. They can come in and help you manage your finance. So rather than contacting individual financial institution, they can contact all of them for you. The first thing they will do is they will freeze all your interest and see what's coming in and what's going out. And they can allocate that funds to pay off all your credit or whatever. But once you filed for bankruptcy, it means that you can no longer handle finance. What will then happen is that all your bank account will be shut down, unfortunately. All your bank account will be shut down. You will only be dealing in cash. And in this country, if you don't have a bank account, how can you get paid? How can you get this? How can you get that? And many places you want to go and work, they won't even give you work. If you want to get accommodation, it becomes a problem because once you filed for bankruptcy, nobody wants to give you accommodation. It just shows that you can't be trusted. Whereas in America, it's a different ball game. The president of America has filed for bankruptcy several times, but he's still going. So those days, one of my first check to do on people is, have they ever in any part of their life filed for IVA or bankruptcy? There's a way you can know. If you go online, just go on the insolvency register and you can enter it whether IVA or bankruptcy. So you can check either of the two based on individuals' information and see if they've ever been there, fine. If they've ever been, the reason why we do those checks is if they've ever been there or if they're there, we want to check whether they've come out that arrangement. If they've come out of that arrangement, then we can deal with them directly. So if they've come out of that, if they've not come out of that arrangement, some of the firm could have passed it to another firm. So we get in touch with those firm and they can direct us to another firm. It's just internal process. But if they've come out, some of the firm could say, yes, it's okay, we are fine. They've dealt with everything. Even though they've not settled everything, you can deal with them. So we need to get that clarification first before we can deal with the individual who have been. So that's the first check we check to say whether somebody's been bankrupt or not. Because if it's there, then what that does is that if somebody declares bankrupt today, it does not mean that that person is down to zero. Now there's what they call pre and post. So any asset you get pre your bankruptcy no longer belongs to you. So if you have a house, if you have whatever, it no longer belongs to you. So that's everything needs to be liquidated to settle your debt. So anything you get after that becomes your own because it's like a new slate. You're giving yourself a new slate. So we want to check at what time did they become bankrupt and at what time. So it's a whole load. You're going to have me seated a whole day to teach on bankruptcy.
Wow.
That's just the intricacies of bankruptcy.
I hope you would grant us the grace to have you once again to tell us majorly about finance, because most of the people listening to you right now might be struggling also with their finance, and that's something that they need someone who has that experience to be able to guide them, and then that could lead to other things for them. Now let's go back to when you moved to Bangor. You said you made up your mind you're not going to do corporate world again. You want to go back to business. So how did it all start for you into the business world fully in the UK?
Yeah, when I came to the UK, the first thing is when you go to an environment, you have to learn, study the environment, study what works and what doesn't work. I noticed that there's a lot of regulations in this country that's not in some places like Nigeria. I don't know of other countries. In Nigeria, you can wake up today, like how I was selling oranges, I could do that easily. But in the UK, it's quite difficult. I might need a regulation. I might need a certificate in food safety to be able to sell oranges. So in Nigeria, you could wake up and just go to the market, buy chicken, fry it, put it outside your house, and that's your own, give it whatever name, chicken recipe or whatever. And you start selling. You don't need any regulation. You don't need any registration. You don't need anything. You sell and then you can hawk it. You can do this. So when I got to the UK, I saw that it's very, very different environment. Everything you do, you've got to get certification. Everything you do, you've got to. So I thought, okay, I am going to do business. That's the number one thing. So I penned that down. I was going to do business. Okay, so what business will I do? I didn't know. So I started cracking my brain. What business will I do? What business will I not do? So I discovered that one of the businesses that a lot of people do voluntarily and involuntarily is housing. A lot of people buy houses, and some people, the reason why I say involuntary is because some people, they buy their house to live in, but indirectly, that's the only investment they would ever make in life, because when they are old and maybe pass away, that's the only thing they can give to their children. So it's a form of a business indirectly, but they don't know it that is a business. So I said, okay, I'll go into property. So I did a course. Then I was watching Homes Under the Hammer. So I did a course with the bloke doing the Homes Under the Hammer, and it was one course to another course to another course. So everything was just about course, and not the actual. So I discovered that I would have spent more money on courses than putting money together to actually do the business. So my wife said, this is not actually what you need. So I said, okay. So I stumbled into a program where a gentleman was teaching about mergers and acquisition. And I thought, okay, so you can actually buy a company. It's never occurred to me that you can actually buy a company. What's always occurred to me is that you can start a business. So I said, oh, what? So if I can buy a company, then that's even better. So I said, okay. So I went on that course in 2015, 2016, thereabout, but I just thought, I'm not ready now. I said, let me go into the corporate world, work my way up, see how a junior behaves, see how a senior, see how a director behaves. And then when I buy my company, I'm able to manage it. So that was why my first phase was like working in the corporate world. So, so I did a course and tried to acquire some businesses at the back of that course, but it wasn't working. And I thought, why is this thing not working? There must be a problem. So I went back to do another property courses again, and took some mentorship. And when I took some mentorship, I was able to get some properties on no money down, believe it or not. So I became landlord without actually having a mortgage. So I said, if this works on property, then it can work in business. So I said, okay. So I went back on that course and I took a mentorship, which was very expensive. The mentorship cost me about $12,000. And one of his guarantees was that before the end of 12 months, you would get at least $1 million business. So I looked 12,000 to getting $1 million business. So I said, okay. He said, only if you're ready to put in the work, because it's not a sherry work. You have to put in the hard work. But I can guarantee you that at the end of this process, you would have a business. I said, yeah, I'll put in the work. So I did resign from it was one of the motivations where I had to put in in fact, that was the first time I put in my resignation without actually knowing what to do. But then I had a lot of savings and I knew This savings was going to take me for a year, but I have to dedicate time. I said it's either now or never, because I've been always putting it off, and because there's work to do and all those. So I said this time around, I'm going to dedicate myself to this mentorship for the 12 months. So I put myself for the mentorship, did the mentorship, and we had weekly sessions where the mentor was going to give us activities and follow up and make sure we've done the activities and everything. So, but then the challenge was I didn't know what business to do, even though I knew I wanted to go into business. So because my wife was in health sector, and she said, why not let's go into the health together? She's scared of business. I'm okay with business. She understands health. Let's do that. It will be a soft way for her to learn business. It will be an opportunity for me to get what I want, and then it will be a win-win situation for the family. So I said, that's good. We could do that. So it meant that I just narrowed my search into the health sector. So I did all the other things they asked me to do, and eventually we saw a business that we were both happy with. And it took longer than the 12 months we anticipated because of the finance. But when the finance was put in place within 3 months, that was completed.
Wow. That's huge. I like the part where you complemented each other with your wife, because that's something that most couples don't realize, that each person has something to bring on the table. And that harmony between the two of you actually gave you that opportunity to own your business. Now you have the business. You had the privilege of working in the corporate world. You understand how the level manager work. You understand how the senior executive work. Now you're managing this business. I'm going to ask you two questions in this area. How has it been managing this business with all you know? The second question is, for somebody who doesn't have this experience you had in the corporate world, how would the person also manage a business? So the two questions can go hand in hand for you.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll answer the second one first. For somebody who doesn't have a constant to the first thing, you can get short courses to learn management. You can get a mentor to teach you. So it's not compulsory that you have to work in the corporate world before you buy business. You can get books. A lot of people have done it or gone through that phase, and you can read it in the books. It's just that the majority of us don't read these days. There's many good books that we could recommend that you could read on how to actually manage a business. There's one they call Built to Sell. The guy was struggling in his business because he didn't have the experience, so he was doing everything and anything. And he got somebody in. They helped him through the process and everything, and he turned a struggling business to a business that he sold for £6 million. So that's that. Now, coming with myself on learning and how it's the one advert I listen on my radio whenever I'm driving home, say, you make doing this effortlessly simple. It's for somebody who have not got my experience will find it difficult. But because of my experience, sometimes when I see things, I don't overreact. I'm a very calm person. So when I see things, my first approach is to understand the problem. If I understand the problem, what is the solution? So that's my two approach. If something is a problem, what is the solution? Now, I then go back to what caused it in the first place. So let's just take example now. Say we come to the office. I'm just taking an example, and there is no pen. The next thing would be, how do we get a pen for people to use? If pen is everything, is what everybody uses. So that's a problem we've identified. Then I look at what caused it in the first place that there was no pen. Whose responsibility was it in the first place to ensure that there's always pen? If there's nobody who has that responsibility, then we now assign that responsibility to one person. So we know that whenever there's no pen, it is that person's responsibility. So that person, maybe it's every week you've got to check to see that we've got enough pens, or I'm just using that as an example. So a cut across all departments. If there is no this, why is it? Who is supposed to supply? Is it because we've not ordered? If we're supposed to order a materials in and we didn't do it on time, why is that? So things like that we can try. So what I learned in the corporate world is process, because you're dealing with so many departments and so many people and so many external processes in place. So when you're looking at things, the first thing you look at is your process. Have you followed the process? If you follow the process, you can't go wrong. So whatever you do, you document. So we follow the same approach in the business. Whatever you do, you document it, just so that when we go back, we can refer to it. So that's basically what we do to help the business. And it's just been ticking along like clockwork. Everybody knows what they are doing. So if somebody don't know what they are doing, it's either they've not got training on that, which will provide. So everything is just education again. So if you've not got the training, we'll train you to understand what you're supposed to be doing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this deep knowledge with us. What is one biggest challenge you have faced as a business person that you felt too overwhelmed, but at the end of the day, you came out and you sought the issue and you had a triumph at the end of the day? Can you remember any of such experiences?
You say this and it makes me laugh. There was a business I bought. I bought a construction company. It was a very, very big challenge. I knew it was a challenge, but I went in with emotions. Like I said, don't buy a business with emotion. I went in with the mind that I was going to change the business, do this and this. And when I got that business, the arrangement was the former owner would now work for me as the manager, whilst I would direct the business. I turned the company around within 6 months, and he started stealing from me. He started stealing from me, and I knew he was stealing from me, but I didn't know how to sack him. Because if I sack him, majority of the workers are loyal to him. They are not loyal to me, but the sentiments and everything. And how do I go to tell the workers that he's stealing from me? He's owned the business prior. So if he takes it before, it is his own property. But now, taking it from somebody else is actually stealing. But he didn't see it as that. And I pointed it out to him to say, this is what you're doing. And don't think I don't know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. So I got a new manager to manage the business so that he doesn't have access to any management. So he wasn't happy with that. He was happy working, but he was now steering trouble among the staffs. It was steering trouble among the staffs. And because of what he's done, everything I've sorted, he's just modeled everything. And there was now huge debt to deal with. So I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was in the deep blue sea. So I spoke with an accountant. I spoke with my accountant and said, this is a very big problem. I don't know how to get out of it. I've spoken with the bank, and the bank are telling me that I'm going to be liable. So my accountant asked me, did you sign any documents with the bank to say you'll be liable? And I said, no. And my accountant said, well, then you're not liable. So he just said, put the bank company through bankruptcy, and then you can free yourself. And it came to my mind, and I said, oh, I've done a lot of things with bankruptcy. Now you're asking me to put the company through bankruptcy. Is that not going to affect me and this and that? And he said, no. He said, this is a business. So, and I remembered a lot of the training I got, because my mentor said, when you're buying a business, you want to buy it in what they call SPV, special purpose vehicle. So you buy it using an entity. So it is not you directly, it is the entity. So if anything happens to that entity, it has nothing to do with you. So my accountant was able to work with me. So, well, we had to put that company to sleep. That was like a massive relief, being able to do that without actually affecting, because even when I bought this present one, they asked me and I disclosed everything to the bank, and they said, yeah, that's fine. That's perfectly okay and understandable. It was a very big challenge. At the time, I didn't know how to sort it out, but getting the right advice, I was able to put that chapter and that episode too. So that I would say that's one big challenge I faced in. So it's not always rosy for entrepreneurs. We too face challenges. It's just getting the right advice and the education to deal with it.
So with what you experienced there, what would be your advice to someone who might be starting up in that area?
It's just make sure you dot the I's and cross the T's when doing either business or any transactions, because at the end of the day, you know yourself. Like my mentor always say, before you go into anything with anyone, make sure you get an agreement and you both understand what you're signing. And when you get that agreement, give it to a lawyer to go through it with you. It will cost you money in that initial stage, but it will cost you more if you don't do that. So always make sure there's an agreement and you sign it and everybody understands. If somebody breach that agreement at the first instance, cry out. Don't overlook it. If somebody breach that agreement, cry out in the first instance, because otherwise it's going to come back to bite you. I remember a friend who started a property business with his boss. So he started the property business. I'll be quick with that. He started the property business with his boss. He's a team leader. The team leader wasn't doing anything, but he was doing everything. He was investing his money and everything. The team leader turned around and said, "You're not doing your work." He said, "Oh, but we had an understanding that I'll be doing this. You'll be covering for me." At the end of the day, he said, "Okay, they're going to break up." The team leader demanded for £18,000 before he can, for a work that he was doing everything. So my mentor is saying, always sign an agreement. He said the agreement is not for today that it is good. The agreement is for when things go sour. He said because a lot of people marry and they still divorce. So the same thing happened in business. So the agreement is for when things go wrong. So the agreement is not for today that we are laughing and everything. It's for when things go wrong. You can refer to that agreement and say, listen, this is what you agreed. This is what I agreed. This is what you signed and this is what I signed. This is what you have done that is now making me to want to do this. So always draw the line and always refer them to that agreement. It keeps everybody safe and it protects you. That document protects you because you can present it to a judge. It doesn't matter whether it's a piece of paper. It doesn't matter whether a lawyer have seen it or not. Make sure you understand that agreement and the both of you sign what you can understand.
Interesting. We've really had a long, great discussion. But let me ask you, knowing what you know now, what would be your advice to your younger self? What would be your advice to Kayode at 18, 19, 20? What would you do differently?
That would be cheating on my younger self. I don't think I would have changed anything because everything I know now is been shaped from my experience. So my advice to my younger self would just be, don't be scared to dare, which I didn't. And don't be scared to break limits. I wouldn't say there is anything I would want to change. It's not been perfect, but that's human. We live with our imperfections. You learn from your mistakes. So for me, I think what would be my most would be, in 80 years, what advice would I give to myself now? And then live with it to now meet my 80. But if I would advise my younger self, it would be, don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself. Go for the most and make sure you live your life to the fullest. That would be the advice I would give to my younger self. But I don't think there's anything I would have wanted to change in my life.
Wow, that's very audacious. That's very audacious. For you to say this, it really means you've really had an experience growing up. You've had compilations of experiences that you're proud of, and that's a great one. So let's take it further. In the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, if Kayode is alive and healthy, God keeping you strong, what do we see you doing? Where do we see you, and what would you be doing differently, and what would you be doing huge?
Well, I've got quite a few things up my sleeves. For me, it's just identifying where there is challenge and trying to solve that problem. Because there's one problem or the other. There's a friend of mine. We both did a masters together, and we came to the UK. she said they gave her some coursework and they said she should solve some of the problems in the UK. And she said, UK get problem? And I said, yes, there's problem. There's a lot of problem. She said, their country don't set already. They don't get problem. They just leave. I said, no, there's problem. So for me, one of the challenge I've seen is we have a lot of Nigerians and I'm not going to go to Africans. We have a lot of Nigerians who have traveled out of Nigeria in the last few years. And what we suffer now is that when we're traveling, we travel back and forth. We don't have a base. When I say a base, we travel, but we don't control the airline and things. So majority of us still fly Ethiopian Airlines. So we've got to go to Bol and then come back to Lagos, which is like a stress. You've got to go to Morocco before you come to Lagos. You have to go to this. So in my target would be within the next 5 years to build or buy or create an international airline that can ferry Nigerians from Lagos to London. That is purely Nigerian, not what's it called? I know we've got peace, but a carrier that you can say this is Nigerian owned and run. So that's a big plan for me that should happen within now and the next 10 years. So that's the big thing I'm working. In the next 5 years and stuffs, would just be enjoying time with my family. I've got little children. I want to spend time with them to nurture them and to train them and to groom them and to help them because they will do what they see you do, just like as I'm doing what I saw my dad do. So I believe that's the greatest teacher. So I want to spend the first few years of their life teaching them that aspect and spending time with them, but then doing whatever I can do because I've still got some businesses up my sleeves that I'm looking, but if I'm looking at those, it will be in form of joint ventures rather than just me going to do this on my own. So that's the plan for the future anyway.
That's a huge one. You're taking up a huge task ahead of you, man. That's a huge one. And I wish you well in that.
Thank you.
Well in that. So what do you define as legacy? What would you say your legacy would be? Let's say if you transition from here for maybe time and you're no more here, what would you define?
My
What would your
legacy would be the greatest legacy would be to impact my children to be able to continue from where I stop, not financially, not necessarily. I don't plan for my children because whatever I have achieved is for them to go up and break the limits. What I inherited most from my dad is the knowledge he imparted into me and the drive and that can-do spirit. That is what I want to give to my children. If I'm able to do that, that would be giving them a good legacy rather than giving them billions or giving them companies and then within 5-10 years, they are all gone. We know of a lot of big businessmen in Nigeria. One is Abiola. You can't point to one business that Abiola was doing, but this man was once the richest man in Nigeria. So for me, I don't think that's a good legacy. If Abiola had taken time to groom his children to be able to surpass him, then maybe he would have had a good legacy. For me, my dad has done all these things. He's made a success of it, taking it to another level. It would be for my children to help my children to take it to the next level. That would be the greatest legacy I would want to leave, rather than leave material things that would perish.
So are there things you're doing on a personal level to impact the community as Kayode? Is there something that people are looking up to can say, maybe in a formal way or informal way, that people can reach out and say, this is something that Kayode is doing for the community?
Yeah, I do a lot for the community. I do for North Wales. I work with North Wales African Society, which is a registered charity in the UK. So I am the business executive. So I help train people on buying businesses, starting businesses, running businesses, how to succeed in business. And that is it, how do I put it? That mentality that because we are from this part of the world, that's why. No. So I'm trying to help people understand that It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter where you find yourself. If you take me to Kyrgyzstan or Afghanistan or whatever, I know that I want to do business. So I established that is the first core. When I get there, I then establish, okay, what business will sell here? I went to France the other day, and when we go to France, it's a different culture. Whereas in the UK, the family like to sit around the table and eat. In France, everybody go outside to eat in a restaurant, and they take their dinner from 7 to 8 to 9. So when you go to that environment, you know that, okay, restaurant will sell here. Now, look at which restaurant is thriving, and then go into, there will be somebody who is retiring. Tell them you want to buy the rest. And then you can, so I'm just giving that as an example of what. So I help the community to see that it doesn't matter where you are, you can actually start a business or buy a business, which is even better. We help in the education aspect as well, to teach people our local languages, to make people not see that your local language is vernacular or whatever the colonial master is drilled into our brain. Our local language is our language. Every other thing we speak is the vernacular. And all languages are vernacular anyway. So things like that I'm involved with. And I'm also involved with culture. We also have a Yoruba society in Bangor, where we encourage people to speak the Yoruba language and to communicate more in their own local dialect, because that's the core of who they are. Because if you lose your language, are you going to say, I'm English? I'm not English, even though I'm fluent in English. So I am a Yoruba man, and I'm proud to be a Yoruba man. And I always encourage people to speak their local language and to understand it and to enjoy it, because that is who they are. And especially people coming into a foreign land, you don't want to forget your identity and become a wana. A lot of people are in America now is wana, because they've forgotten their history, their ancestry, and a lot of them are trying to trace back who their ancestry are, which they can't. So coming into a foreign land, you don't want to forget who you are. So those are the few things I do with the community.
Amazing, amazing. So, Kayode, who inspire you? Who are your people, the people you look up to, you've learned from, books you've read? What are the things that made Kayode who he is today?
Well, the first people who inspired me are my parents, because they are the one I saw doing what they were doing, and I thought, okay, I'll follow after them. And they inspire me because they taught me that hard work really pays. There are some people too that I do admire. I admire Richard Branson, not least because of his own background, who is dyslexic, gone on to make success for himself and run a multi-billion-dollar empire. My teachers in school, I suppose, because they were diligent to teach me, to make me put my head down in school. Yeah, there are quite a few people I admire. I admire Warren Buffett as well, Robert Kiyosaki. I know those are familiar names, but my mentors too, Kevin McDonough, is an Irish. He taught me no money down, and I've been using that strategy in most things I do. Rob Moore, he's taught me 3 principles in life that I keep with me, which the first thing is, say, when you get a task, what a lot of people think is, I want to do it. They say, no, the first thing you should think is, who do I pay to do it? If you can't get somebody to pay to do it, then you look for somebody who you can teach to do it. If you can't do that, that's where you now do it yourself. So the first person to do that task should not be you. So those are the people that have inspired me in life. Many other people that I can't mention their name, but these few people have inspired me.
What books have you read, Kayode? What books have you read? And what book are you reading now?
One of the first business book I read was Think and Grow Rich by Mr. Hill, Napoleon Hill. I remember when I struggled in my business in Lagos. I ran that business with a business partner, and he pulled out and took a lot of the resources. So I was left short. I read Napoleon Hill, and he taught me how to convert everything around me into resources. So And I looked in my room. The only valuable I had then was my laptop my dad bought for me for school. So I had to give the laptop out for a loan, to get a loan, put that money into my business. And within a month, I'd made the money back and we paid the loan and collected back my laptop. I've read Built to Sell. I've read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. He was a retired Navy SEAL in America. He talked through his challenges, how he got there, how he was able to maintain high performance. And I've read books on real estate, state investing. Few books like that I've read that have helped shaped me as well.
Thank you for sharing. All right, your last word on this podcast today, because I know you have so much to offer. I know if time permits us, we can stay here all day. But what is your last word to? I have 3 categories of people, and I wanted to talk to these 3 categories of people. Number 1, what is your advice or your word to somebody who is an immigrant in the UK, who is just coming from maybe from Nigeria, from Africa, from wherever, and is coming into this place? What's your word to that person? Number 2, what's your advice to someone who wants to start or own a business right now? And number 3, what would you say to someone who is struggling at any level in their life and they think, how can I get this done? How can I overcome my financial challenges? These are the 3 categories I would like you to talk to. Passionately from your heart, what would it be to them?
Yeah. So we start with the immigrant, somebody who is migrated. The advice is before you migrate, because I remember when I wanted to come to the UK, I had a friend who had been here some few years. So he came 2004. I signed his document with my dad's company to help him to come to the UK. So I asked a lot of advice from him that if I come to the UK, I want to do my master's. So he was the one who even advised me to get a scholarship or save enough to come here. So for somebody who is migrated to the UK, I don't know what circumstance they've come in, but let's put it at the worst case scenario, because if your case is worse, then, so you come to the UK, let's not say the person is come as a visitor, because as a visitor, you are required to go back. Not that some visitors, they get married, they have children and they regularize themselves and they stay here and they make something from themselves and help their family. Some have come here as a student or as a healthcare worker when the visa was open and they were working. And so let's say somebody's come here as a student, because if you come here as a worker, then you've got a job. If you just live within your means and things would work with time, things would normalize. Some have come in as a student and now their visa is finished or whatever. It's really tough. My advice would be, from the day one of your arrival, start thinking of where you want to be and how you want to go there. So even though you have 3 years visa or 4 years visa or 5 years visa, don't think is my visa going to give me permanent residency? Is it going to give me rest of mind? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? If there's no light, how do I create that light? So that would be my advice. Although without knowing individual circumstances, it's always very difficult. I've come here and a family friend I used to know back home in Nigeria was here for 14 years. And the Home Office had already given her letter to go back home. And she came to meet me and said, well, the first thing is to get a solicitor to advise you. So we got a solicitor, and what the solicitor said, put in another application. She put in another application, and the Home Office, because first it wasn't clear what the circumstance was. So the Home Office came back and said, you need to leave. So I said, what's the reason? Because they can't just tell you to leave. They will give you because of this, because of this. So when they gave all the reasons, and I said, okay, well, good. They've given you a reason now. Go and work on those reasons. And when you work on those reasons, put in another application and tell them you've worked on those reasons. So she worked on those reasons, put in an application, and then they grant her a leave to remain. So if you're here, try to know what you need to do to regularize and know what is your route to your end goal, which is the indefinite leave, and then ultimately your passport. So I'll just leave that on immigration because it's a wide-ranging topic and it affects individuals differently. But the best thing would be to get a solicitor who understands immigration law and can help you on your specific circumstance. Now, starting and owning a business, another would be to understand what business you want to get into. What regulations is it? Because UK is a very regulated country. Many things are regulated. There are still some sectors that are not regulated, but check what regulations are covering that business. If you check what regulations are covering that business, what do you need? What is the minimum barrier to entry and all those other things? Once you can identify it and you can work your way around it. Because I know of a lady who does a podcast, and because she was a student, she was not allowed to set up a business. So what she did was she set up a business in her home country, which is legally allowed. Now, everything she does goes through her home country, and there's nothing stopping her from transferring. So she pays her taxes in her home country and everything. The money legitimately belongs to her, and then she can spend it here. So there are so many things you can do as a workaround, which are not illegal. Again, would be to get a legal advice, a sound legal advice on what you're doing. If you're able to start a business, if you're able to own a business, go ahead and own it. If you can't, look for people you can joint venture with and partner with. Now, for those who are struggling, again, will be identify what's causing them to struggle. If somebody's coming as a student and has not got a job, reach out to the community, and there will be somebody somewhere who can help. They may not be able to offer all the help that they can give. When I came to the UK, I struggled. I came to the UK with just £64 in my pocket or thereabout. And I bought a train ticket from Manchester to Bangor, £41. So I had £25 left with me. That £25, I was supposed to rent a house, eat, transport, and do a lot of things. And that money lasted me for about 2-3 months. How it did, I don't know. So, but I met people who were willing, who had big hands and welcomed me in. My friend accommodated me for weeks in his house before I got a loan from the university to get my first accommodation, and then paid back when I was able to. So if you're struggling, reach out to the community and say, this is what I know there's been a lot of people that have helped and repaid back in their own kindness. But if you're struggling, reach out to family and friends. You could be surprised that even people back home would be happy to support. And when you come to a new country, try to be on your feet before you start helping people. When I came here, I told every of my family, my sisters, my brothers, my siblings, I said, I'm a student and I am no different from somebody who is schooling in Nigeria. If you ask me for money, I'm going to block you and I'm never going to speak with you again. They say, why? I said, because I'm schooling in the UK does not mean that I've got excess money to give anybody. I have just come into a new country. Let me find my feet. When I'm able to stand and I'm able to help, I will help you. So for the first 12 months, nobody asked me for a penny. So when you come to the UK, don't allow the needs of people back home to put pressure on you. I know my mom is struggling. So yes, it's okay if you have extra change and you want to help. I'm not going to say don't do it, but don't let people put on unnecessary pressure, because I could know my dad was still alive. A lot of people would just pick up the phone and say, oh, your dad just gave me your phone number now. Yeah, you know what? I'm struggling. Come and help me. I can't help everybody. A lot of people are struggling because they want to try and carry the weight of everybody, not because they are struggling. So again, it will be difficult to understand what's causing the struggle. But if they can identify these little things that they can do to help themselves first, because you can't be standing on one foot and want to carry somebody, the two of you will fall. So you stand on your 2 feet. When you stand, you can be able to carry whatever you want.
Wow. Thank you so much. That is the advice of an elder statesman. And if you're listening to Kayode today, I'm sure you've gotten loads of value. And I must say thank you so much for sharing how many years of experience with us in in 2 hours, almost in these hours of minutes we've spent with you, you've just compressed time for us. And I want to say thank you
You're
for
welcome.
being this generous to share with us. And I look forward to having more time with you to share more of your experience with our audience so that they also can benefit. And it's my hope that we'll come back, and if God keep us alive and we're still here, in the next few years, I'll be asking you about the airline you wanted to start
It will happen.
and how
God
far
willing.
it has gone. Great. So that's a way of wrapping up. Thank you so much, Kayode, for being on the show today.
You're
And
welcome.
I look forward to having you some other time. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much.
Thank you for the invite.